Hi everybody. Today I'm going to start working on a model building project. I don't normally do this kind of stuff, but I've got this little project and looking forward to it. Basically it's going to be a desk. I don't know if you can see that. It's a little bit shadowed out so I could see my lines. I'm also going to attempt for the first time to use laser cutting, Glowforge. So I'll be walking you through that process, but today I am going to start cleaning and assembling what are the legs. So if you see here, these sort of turned legs, and these guys I 3D printed, modeled them in the computer and made these parts. It goes like that as one piece, but I actually put it in two pieces, cut it so I could fit it on my printer bed a little more easily. So I'm not going to get too much into the super details of printing, but what happens is it prints it and there's all these supports and you break the supports away. So there's a lot of cleanup, little nubs and things like that to clean up. Inside there's supports and things. And then these two guys go together. And I need to clean up some of these edges to make sure that they glue up. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to basically just clean them, glue them up, paint them, and then, then we'll be ready to go on to the rest of this stuff. So let's get to it.
Okay, this is the model that I made in ZBrush. It's basically a whole bunch of various parts. So you can see as I go down the list here, you can see the different pieces. This basically was done against an image plane of that guy, that leg. I also left, where are you? Or I should say I also put this little guy on top. This is a 1/4 inch dowel, and that's what's going to mount to the underside of the table. I'll drill a hole on the bottom side and I can put that in there and glue it in. So the other thing I did was sort of combine all this and cut it, and I'll show you how I did that. So the way I dealt with this was I merged all those parts together and I used this tool. Okay, so this is my cutting tool. It's kind of hard to see what it is, but I'll try to explain it and you can see. What's going on is it's got a very slight thickness to it, and that's going to separate the top and bottom half. And there's this key shape, but the one on the inside is a little bit smaller. So when it cuts these apart, it will basically create a little bit of a gap for glue, and so it doesn't exactly stick together. Because if you cut these, they're exactly the same size, they'll never go together. Alright, so I basically cut off that top half of the cutter, but you can see the gap that's in there, and that's so that the parts aren't exactly the same size, and you need that for assembling these things because ultimately it'll make it not go together right. So let me go back, put this thing back together. Here it is, and basically what I do is I scale this guy down, I'll rotate it, and then I'll put it where I want the cut to be. And in this case I want to turn it over so the key is up. So I slide it in, find the place to cut it, and you can see here I'm just going to try to cut it right at that edge. And this thing, again, remember, has a really small thickness to it, and that's just going to take a tiny bit out of the model, but it won't really matter. Okay, so then I do a Boolean. So I make that the positive, I make that the cutter. So you kind of can't see it now, but when I run this Boolean operation, it's going to cut those two apart, leaving the two mating keys with that little gap. And I just need to separate it now. So I select that, I split them. So if I turn this one off, let me turn off the crazy colors and fill it. That's what happens. This is the one with the smaller part And then if I turn that guy off, this is the one with the female, and or offset. This one's a little wider than the other. And if I turn them on and ghost through it, that's what we get. So the one is just a little bit smaller than the other. I don't know if you can tell here. So I output those and print them, and that's where we are.
Okay, so here we are. Got these put together, glued. You saw earlier when I glued them, I was using this 5-minute epoxy gel, and I like it because it stays together, it doesn't run. So this stuff is great. It's a little expensive. You could probably make your own by mixing in some talc or something like that. Then I also use this spackling compound. I like this particular brand because it's like pink when it goes on. When it dries white, so you know it's dry. Now it's just drywall compound, so it's not that strong, but because it's only in these little joints, it's not really a problem. So also when you spray it, you'll start to see, more of the flaws, the little bumps and this and that and the other thing. That's why priming it is good. You also need to prime it for paint. But at this point, I think it's fine because I'm gonna be painting it with wood grain and all that kind of thing. So it should be good. I think we're set. We're ready for paint and stuff. The other thing you'll notice, I don't know if you can see, but some of the prints turned out a little wobbly. You can see it there, really pretty bad. But again, I can always turn this thing, and put the flaws away from camera. The prop itself is going to be sort of in the shadows in the back of this little thing we're shooting. So that's fine by me. I'm not going to waste the material or the time to reprint them. But a lot of that has to do with how the thing is like oriented on the bed. If you have a flat surface like this here, and it is perfectly parallel with the build plate, sometimes it'll do weird stuff. I tried a couple of different configurations, the thought being if I have it straight up, there's less build supports, but there's some formula. I think you can find it online, but I'll see if I can find it and put it in the comments. But there's a formula for the volume of the piece and the orientation or the layers. That's very weird. I don't particularly know it yet, but I'll look it up. Anyway, just got these guys stuck in a box here, painted them up, good to go. Also, over there, I borrowed Glowforge. Very excited to kind of get started with that. That'll be the next, part or episode of this build. Just figuring out how to use Illustrator a little bit better, and getting it on the Glowforge, printing out some parts. So, hope you enjoyed that, and see you next time.